All right, what is going on, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Versa 3 as well as the FitBit Sense. And the reason why I'm doing this video together is because these products share a lot of similarities more than differences. And there's a big message I want to send out in this video because I've been a long time Fitbit user since the Charge HR. So without further ado, let's talk about the FitBit Sense first. So the FitBit Sense is the most expensive Fitbit has ever made before. That's a mouthful to say, starting at $329. And what comes inside this Fitbit is you are able to do stress management tools, which is basically just an observation of your physical activity as well as your heart rate and sleeping patterns. And it gives you a number at the end and associates it whether you are really stressed or not. Personally, I'm pretty self-aware on when I'm stressed or not, but it's nice to have a number associated to it with 3 observations. You also get the ability to have a EDA scan, which I found to be useful, and it might be more useful to some people who might have some heart condition, as well as you are able to get high and low heart rate notifications. So if it notices that your heart rate's becoming too high or too low, it will notify you. Another big feature is that it is getting the ECG. That's going to be coming out later this month through a software update, as well as now it does have Google Assistant, which will be coming out in a later software update in October. And the last 2 features of the FitBit Sense is that it's able to track your skin temperature when you're sleeping as well as your blood oxygen when you're sleeping, but it's not able to do that on the fly, which is a pretty big disappointment and confusing on my end. But basically, if you don't need all those features, the Versa 3 might be a potential buy for you, and it's a potential buy. But now let's get into the FitBit Versa 3. So for $100 less than the FitBit Sense, but $50 more than the Versa 2, what do you actually get out of the Versa 3 coming from the Versa 2? Well, one of the major benefits is that it now has built-in GPS into the device, which is huge for most people. It has a better looking OS than the Versa 2, which unfortunately the Versa 2 won't be getting. It's also much easier to switch out the bands with just a click of a button instead of trying to fiddle with some metal rod. You're still getting that amazing 4 to 5 day battery life, and honestly, it's a more beautiful looking device on the outside. One thing I forgot to mention between these two is that the FitBit Sense does come in stainless steel, and then the FitBit Versa 3 is using aluminum. So in terms of aesthetics, I would say that the FitBit Sense is a nice looking watch. Still to this day, it's a nice looking watch. This is a nice looking watch. Listen, this is a nice looking watch. But what's it like using both of these devices? Because spec sheet always tell one story. Well, to be completely honest, it's quite frustrating, and I've had enough of Fitbit, and it's very disappointing for me to say that because I've been a long-time Fitbit user, and I've always had faith that year after year their products would get better, and the Versa 2, I believe, is still a very good product, even the Versa Lite and the Ionic. But if you are coming from one of those previous devices over to the Versa 3 or the Sense, especially for the asking price, it's just a huge disappointment, and I'll get into the reasons of why I'm saying this. So the side buttons or the pressure buttons are not as accurate as the physical button on the Versa 2. I would much rather have a physical button that works 10 out of 10 times than this side button that toggles different gestures and half the time doesn't even work. Now, if you do like this device, I will say that it works most of the time when you press underneath the button. Why it works like that, I don't know, but I found when I'm actually trying to press inside the indentation, it doesn't work all the time. Under the button, it works. So I understand why they did this. I mean, I'm not an engineer, I didn't build this device, but I assume that they did this in order to improve the waterproofing or using this device underwater. But in terms of a user experience interface and how you interact with it, it's very frustrating trying to get this to work when it should just be a physical button. And another thing is when you're deep inside menus or you're clicking through it and you accidentally or somehow this pressure gets registered, it takes you back to your clock. So I found it to be just very frustrating, and you can make shortcuts on the side profile button, and I have it to be an exercise, working out or running. And there'll be times where I somehow it gets registered that I'm working out, and then I look at my watch and it says I've been working out for an hour and a half or 45 minutes, or running for an hour and a half and 45 minutes. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's probably because of this capacitive button that is on the side. And that happened to me 3 to 4 times, and it's just not a fun experience. So next up, I want to talk about music, and this is where the Versa 2 shines, as well as the Ionic. You're able to put music onto this device, so you're not tied to your phone. For some reason, Fitbit took that feature away on the Versa 3 as well as the Sense. And the only way to listen to music without your phone is if you have a premium or a subscription to Pandora or Deezer. Even though I have a Spotify Premium, the only thing I'm able to do on the Versa 3 in the Sense is control it, but I have to have my phone on me. So it kind of defeats the purpose of building GPS into this device, but in order to listen to music, you have to have your phone on you, unless you're subscribed to Deezer and Pandora. And no disrespect to Deezer or Pandora, but who still uses those products? Like, I've done a little bit of research, and Spotify holds over 30% of music streaming services, and the Deezer and Pandora hold 3% to like 5% combined. And it just blows my mind that, Fitbit was acquired by Google, and they don't even offer, Google Play or YouTube Music. Even it has built-in Alexa. It doesn't have Amazon Music. So it's just very weird that they're still having Deezer and Pandora. You have to pay for the subscription model in order to use that, even though that holds a very, very tiny percentage of the market share. So in terms of music, if you're a runner, if you like to listen to music while you work out, hike, you're gonna need to bring your phone. So even though this has built-in GPS, it's not that big of a, I would say, selling point of this device anymore, now that the music capabilities have been taken away from us. The other major disappointment is Alexa. Not you. The other major disappointment is Alexa, and this is what I mean by that. So Alexa's built into these watches, and she's good, but she doesn't have the full capabilities that you get from the actual speaker itself, or even on the smartphone. But I found that it's still like the Versa 2, where sometimes it says that, hey, Fitbit needs to be open in the background, you need to have background refresh on, or Alexa just doesn't work. Hopefully this does get better with Google Assistant, because I do think that Google Assistant is probably a better assistant than Alexa when it comes to answering questions, doing things on the fly. But Alexa is still a little bit of a handicap on these newer devices. So that's another major disappointment in terms of a voice assistant on a smartwatch. The last thing I want to talk about is the OS, and this is pretty much just, even though the OS looks much better, I love the way it looks on the Sense and Versa 3, but without that dedicated physical button, it just makes navigating through this just a little bit more frustrating, like I said earlier in this video. So looks aren't everything. The user experience is another major point in how a customer interacts with your product, and I honestly prefer the older version on the Versa 2 than these newer versions on the Sense and Versa 3. So now I want to talk about Fitbit, and this is where it brings a lot of sadness in me, because this is one of my favorite smartwatch companies. I used to defend them for many years. Like I said, I've been a long time user since the Charge H, I think back in 2015. And even though I am an iPhone user, I always just stuck with Fitbit, not just because of the price tag of the Apple Watch back then, but the battery life. And even though the battery life is still good on the Sense and the Versa 3, it's just that user experience and just how I've seen Fitbit grow along the years, how it just doesn't seem like they're really innovating or changing that much. And the asking price as well, the fact that these are even more expensive than their predecessors, but they're still somehow worse in a way in terms of user experience. Like this one is $229 and this one is $329. Like we're reaching Apple Watch territory with these prices. And I don't want this to be a comparison video about the Apple Watch, but if you are an Apple user and you have a Fitbit, there's no way you can't compare both of these devices. And people would mistake my Fitbit for an Apple Watch, and I'd be like, no, 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 no. This isn't an Apple Watch, it's a Fitbit. You know, it's a great device, I recommend it. But with these devices, it's really hard for me to recommend them. And you know, even with Fitbit over the years, like the OS, how it changes on each and every different watch, the charger, the clamp design, it's clunky, even though they have fixed that with the magnetic one. Even the band switching, I had no idea why they have this implementation, but you know, they fixed that as well. But it's just, I almost want to say like it's too late. You know, the price is just, I think, too expensive for what these products are supposed to provide for the user. And you know, even the customer support that I've gotten hasn't been the greatest. I had some problems with my Versa 1, and even when trying to update these watches, it's always just been a hassle. It's always like a hurdle I have to go over whenever I want to use my Fitbit the way that I think it should be used. So even though I pay for Fitbit Premium, today I'm going to be canceling it. And the reason why is because, like I said, the asking price. Since these watches are starting to inflate to Apple Watch territory, you know, the Watch 3 is $199. The SE starts at $279, which is essentially a $400 watch, which was the Apple Watch Series 5. And I would much rather have a better overall user experience on the Apple Watch and take a hit on the battery life if this is what Fitbit is asking for in terms of the price, as well as Fitness Plus. I do want to check out that fitness service. I think it's going to be a really good competitor to Fitbit Premium, but you know, with that inclusion, that cohesion with the Apple ecosystem, I just think that for the price Fitbit is asking for, that these entry-level Apple Watches are just looking more and more enticing, especially if you are an iPhone user. Now, if you are an Android user, unfortunately, the only watches I've had experience with is with the Fitbit and the Galaxy Watch 3. Now, I do really like the Galaxy Watch 3, but I think if you don't need all the features in the Sense, skip over the Versa 3 and just get the Versa 2. I think you're gonna have a much better overall experience. You're still getting all those features of the Versa 3, still the same battery life, always on display. You're just not getting that built-in GPS. If you need that built-in GPS and you don't carry your phone on you with like hikes, then the Versa 3 is probably going to be a much better option. But if you are going to be carrying your device anyway, like listening to music, just get the Versa 2. I think you're going to have a much better experience overall. Now, I will also say that if you're a first-time Fitbit user, if you do decide to get the Versa 3 or Sense, you might discover that you have a really good experience. But this is just my perspective as a previous Fitbit owner, that's where this disappointment is coming from. These devices are good, but compared to their predecessors, I'm just not as happy with them. So with all that being said, guys, I'm going to be moving over to the Apple Watch. I can't believe I'm saying this because, like I said, I've been defending Fitbit for years, but hope you guys did enjoy this video. You find it insightful. If you have any comments or questions, leave me, I don't even know how to do this outro. I'm just so heartbroken by Fitbit. If you have any questions, please leave it down in the comments below. Leave a like, share it with your friends, subscribe if you want to see more tech videos, and as always, guys, much love. Wow, hurts, man, hurts.